When I entered into that boardroom as the new owner, Jennifer's face went absolutely white. 3 years ago, she told me I was worthless, that I would never be anything, and that marrying me was the worst thing she had ever done. When I got fired, she stood in front of our whole department and laughed. Maybe now I would finally understand how embarrassing it was to be married to a failure, she said. I remember how Jacob smirked next to her, his hand resting on the small of her back like he owned her, like he owned everything I thought was mine. I packed one suitcase that night and left without saying anything, not even a farewell or an explanation. I got rid of my social media accounts, changed my phone number, and disappeared. For 3 years, I worked like a man possessed, sleeping only a few hours a night and studying everything I could about business, investments, and buying companies. I started with nothing and worked my way up with nothing but willpower and rage. And here I was standing at the head of the conference table in a suit that cost more than Jennifer's monthly income, looking down at the woman who used to make me feel like I was worthless. The irony was so funny. The business she worked so hard to get ahead in. I now owned the place where she embarrassed me in front of everyone. I owned everything. Every desk, every computer, every coffee maker, and even the parking space where she used to park her car next to Jacob's. She looked at me like she was witnessing a ghost, her mouth moving but no words coming out. Jacob seemed perplexed. He plainly didn't recognize me at first because of how I looked, how confident I was, and how I controlled the room. But Jennifer was aware. I could tell by the look in her eyes. She knew exactly who I was. And at that moment, when I saw her beautiful mask crumble, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Feeling good. Just pure cold happiness. This was only the start. 6 years ago, I believed I had everything figured out. My name is James. I was 25 years old, just out of college, and in love with the most gorgeous lady I had ever known. Jennifer was everything I thought I wanted in a woman. She was smart, driven, and beautiful, and she lit up a room as soon as she stepped in. We met in one of those tedious economics courses when no one was paying attention during our last year of college. One day, she sat next to me, borrowed my notes, and that was it. I was hooked. 3 months later, we started dating, and I really thought I had found my soulmate. She hailed from a rich family, the kind of people that went to Europe for the summer and knew people all over the world. Her dad owns a chain of high-end hotels. Her mother was on the boards of a number of nonprofits, and her older brother was already a prominent lawyer. I, on the other hand, come from a family that was middle class. My father taught high school. We lived in a little 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, and my mom was a nurse. We weren't fancy, but we were pleased. My parents were supportive yet careful when I informed them I wanted to marry Jennifer. They could tell that our lives were very different, but they trusted my judgment. But Jennifer's family was a different story. During our first dinner together, her mother stared at me like I was something she stepped in, and she barely hid her disgust. Her dad absolutely disregarded me and talked business with her brother as I sat there feeling like I didn't exist. But Jennifer told me she loved me and that none of it mattered. She said we would make our own life together. I believed her, then. We had a little wedding which was nothing like the big one her parents wanted. They wouldn't pay for it since I wanted to help plan it. So we did everything by ourselves. It was magnificent in its simplicity, simply close friends and family, and for a while we were really happy. After the wedding, Jennifer started working for Sterling Corporation, a software business that was growing quickly and was in the middle of the road. She started as a junior analyst, but she was brilliant and worked hard, so she went up quickly. 6 months later, I landed a job in the IT department at the same company. It wasn't a glamorous job, but the compensation was good, and I was competent at it. I fixed computers, took care of the servers, and helped individuals when their systems crashed. It was steady, dependable work. Things were nice for the first 2 years of our marriage. We rented a tiny apartment in the city center and spent our weekends exploring the area, cooking dinner together, and making plans for the future. Jennifer said she wanted kids someday, that she wanted to buy a house with a huge yard, and that she wanted to grow old with her partner. I worked hard, took on extra shifts when I could, and saved every dime I could. I wanted to give her everything to show her family that I was a good person for their daughter. But things began to change slowly. Jennifer moved up the ranks from junior manager to senior analyst to team lead. She altered a little more with each advancement. She started working later and getting home around 9 or 10 at night. She said she was too exhausted to cook with me anymore. She stopped inquiring about my day and seldom looked up from her phone over supper. I persuaded myself that it was only stress and that everything will go back to normal once work calmed down. Jacob then started working for the company. He was appointed as the new head of marketing and came from a huge company in New York with an amazing CV and an ego to match. He was tall, good-looking, and personable in a way that made everyone like him right away. He drove a fancy automobile, wore fine outfits, and had a confidence that permeated every place he walked into. Jennifer was told to work closely with him on a big assignment. There was talk of changing the company's name and moving into new markets. She was suddenly spending more time at work, traveling to meetings that went until midnight and business trips that lasted for days. She would snap at me every time I inquired about it, telling me I didn't get how important this project was and how it might make her career. I attempted to help. I truly did. Even though she typically said she had already eaten, I would wait up for her and make dinner. I would ask her how her day was and listen to her talk about business politics, campaigns, and strategy. When she said she was tense, I would massage her shoulders, run her showers, and wash the laundry so she wouldn't have to worry about it. But it was never enough. She began to compare myself to Jacob. At first, the remarks were small and hard to see. Jacob is really committed. He gets at the office before everyone else. Jacob has some really good ideas. He really knows how to come up with new ideas. Jacob went to school at Harvard. Did you know that? The remarks got meaner after that. Why don't you have that kind of drive? Jacob is younger than you and has already done so well. Do you ever think about how you could do more with your life? I tried to ignore it and tell myself she was just stressed, but the comments hurt more and more each time. The worst part was that I began to believe her. I might not have been ambitious enough. I might need to do more, make more money, and be more. I thought about going back to school for an MBA and looked into business classes, but we couldn't afford it because of our bills and Jennifer's student loans. So I stayed in it, fixing computers and feeling smaller every day. 3 years ago, on a Tuesday in November, everything fell apart. I remember the date because it was supposed to be the day we got married for the 4th time. I had the afternoon off and was going to surprise Jennifer with a lovely meal at home. I went to her favorite bakery and got her a chocolate raspberry cake that she liked. It cost too much, but it was worth it to watch her smile. I got her flowers, white roses since they made her think of our wedding. I even bought a bottle of wine from the year we got married. The apartment was tidy, there were candles lighted, and nice music was playing. I was wearing the shirt she bought me for my birthday. She thought it made me look good. Everything was great, but Jennifer never came home. I tried calling at 8 o'clock, but no one answered. I sent texts, but no one answered. I dialed her office line, but there was no answer. I was scared that anything had happened by 9 o'clock. I was looking at police reports and hospital websites by 10 o'clock. Finally, at 11:15, she stepped in, laughing loudly and obviously inebriated, with Jacob by her side. When they noticed me in the kitchen, they both stopped. The cold food on the table, the candles that had melted, and the flowers that had died. Jennifer glanced at me as if she were trying to remember something. After then, her eyes got a little bigger. Oh, it's our anniversary. I totally forgot. Jacob smiled smugly, not even bothering to hide it. He looked around at my sad attempt at a romantic evening, and I could see that he was judging me. Sorry, man, he murmured, but he didn't sound sorry at all. We had a huge breakthrough on the campaign today. Had to celebrate. We hit up that new rooftop bar downtown. You should see this place. It is incredible. Jennifer giggled, stumbling slightly. Jacob caught her arm, steadying her, his hand lingering on her waist. It was amazing. James, we finally cracked the strategy. This is going to be huge for the company. I just stood there holding a dish towel, feeling like an idiot. Our anniversary, I said quietly. You forgot our anniversary? She waved her hand dismissively. God, don't not be so dramatic. It is just a day. We can celebrate this weekend or something. Jacob, do you want some water before you go? Before he goes, I repeated. You brought him here. She rolled her eyes. He gave me a ride. I obviously could not drive. What was I supposed to do? Take a cab. You could have called me. I would have picked you up. She laughed. Actually laughed. You pick me up in that ancient car of yours. Jacob drives a Tesla. James, it is just more convenient. Something inside me cracked. I had spent 4 hours cooking her favorite meal, cleaning the entire apartment, trying to make everything special, and she brought another man home on our anniversary, and she was defending it. Jacob clearly sensed the tension and decided to leave, but not before kissing Jennifer on the cheek. A kiss that lasted a second too long, that was placed a little too close to her mouth. See you tomorrow, Jen. Great work today. After he left, I tried to talk to her, but she was already walking to the bedroom, kicking off her heels. I am exhausted. James, can we not do this right now? Do what? I asked, following her. Acknowledge that you forgot our anniversary and brought your coworker home drunk at 11 at night. She spun around, and for the first time, I saw real anger in her eyes. You know what your problem is? You are insecure. Jacob and I are working on the biggest project this company has ever seen. And all you can think about is your precious feelings. Grow up. That is not fair. Fair? She snapped. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I am out there building a career, making real money while you are stuck in the IT department fixing printers? Is it fair that I have to carry this relationship financially because you have zero ambition? I felt like I had been slapped. We split the bills evenly. You have never carried anything. She laughed bitterly. Please, your salary is a joke compared to mine. And do not even get me started on how embarrassing it is when people ask what my husband does, and I have to say he is in tech support. She said tech support like it was something disgusting. Like I was something disgusting. I tried to defend myself, to explain that I worked hard, that my job mattered, but she just kept going. Jacob is a vice president at 32. 32, James. Do you know what you'll be at 32? Still fixing computers. Still being useless. The word hung in the air between us. Useless. That is what you think of me, I said slowly. That I am useless. Jennifer's expression softened slightly, like maybe she realized she had gone too far. I did not mean she started. Yes, you did. I interrupted. You meant every word. She sighed suddenly, looking tired. Look, I have had too much to drink, and I am exhausted. Let us just forget this and talk tomorrow. But we did not talk tomorrow or the day after. Jennifer avoided me, leaving early for work and coming home late. When we did cross paths, she was cold, distant, like I was just some roommate she barely tolerated. And Jacob was everywhere. I would see them in the cafeteria, laughing over lunch. I would spot his car in the parking lot next to hers. I would notice how she lit up when he walked into a room, the same way she used to light up for me. The next 2 months were the darkest period of my life. I became a ghost in my own marriage, watching helplessly as my wife fell in love with another man right in front of me. Every morning, I would wake up to an empty bed, Jennifer already gone to the office. I would make breakfast for 2 out of habit, then eat alone, staring at her untouched plate. At work, I tried to avoid seeing them together. But Sterling Corporation was not that big. The IT department was on the 3rd floor, and I had to pass by the marketing wing every time I went to the server room. Without fail, I would see them through the glass walls of the conference room, heads bent together over lapped boards, laughing at private jokes, their body language screaming intimacy. Jacob had started bringing her coffee every morning. Not just any coffee, but this expensive artisan blend from a cafe across town that cost $12 a cup. The same cafe where Jennifer and I used to go on our first dates back when she thought it was romantic that I saved up to take her there. Now, Jacob bought it for her every single day like it was nothing. I watched her face light up each time he walked in with those cups. The way she would touch his arm and thanks, letting her hand linger just a moment too long. My coworker, Dennis, noticed my spiraling mood. He was a good guy, been with the company for 15 years, seen everything. One afternoon, while we were replacing some faulty hard drives, he asked me straight out if everything was okay at home. I tried to brush it off, but he just gave me this look. Listen, man, he said quietly. I have been married for 23 years. I know what a struggling marriage looks like. Whatever is going on, you need to address it now before it is too late. But I did not know how to address it. What was I supposed to say? Every conversation with Jennifer turned into a fight. If I asked about her day, she said I was being nosy. If I did not ask, she said I did not care. If I suggested we spend time together, she was too busy. If I gave her space, she accused me of being distant. I could not win. The worst part was how she had turned our friends against me. We had a group, people we went to college with, couples we used to hang out with on weekends. Jennifer started feeding them her version of events. Poor me, stuck with an unambitious husband who could not handle her success. Poor me, married to someone who got jealous of her work relationships. Poor me, carrying the financial burden while he coasted in an easy job. I only found out because our friend Michael pulled me aside at a birthday party. Dude, is it true you have been giving Jennifer a hard time about working late? The way she tells it, you are being really controlling. I was stunned. Controlling? I had never tried to control anything. Jennifer did. I just wanted my wife back. But when I tried to explain, I could see the doubt in Michael's eyes. Jennifer had already painted me as the villain, and her version was more compelling. She was the successful career woman being held back by her insecure husband. It was a narrative people wanted to believe. At home, the tension was suffocating. We barely spoke anymore. Jennifer started sleeping in the guest room, claiming she did not want to wake me when she came home late. But I would lie awake anyway, hearing her come in at 1 or 2 in the morning, sometimes later. I started tracking her location on the app we had installed years ago for safety. I know it was wrong, but I was desperate. Most nights her location showed she was at the office, but some nights it showed Jacob's apartment building. When I confronted her about it, she exploded. You're tracking me. What is wrong with you? That is psychotic, James. We were working on the presentation. His apartment is closer to the office than ours. It is more efficient. Efficient? That was her excuse for spending nights at another man's apartment. I asked her to stop, to set boundaries, to remember that she was married. She looked at me with such contempt. You are pathetic, she said coldly. Jacob treats me like an equal, like someone whose career and ambitions matter. You treat me like I am supposed to come home and play housewife for you. That is not what I want. I just want my wife. Well, maybe your wife wants more than this. She gestured around our apartment with disgust. More than you? That broke something fundamental inside me. I stopped arguing. I stopped trying. I went through the motions of daily life, like a robot. Wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, repeat. I lost 15 pounds because I forgot to eat most days. My performance at work suffered. I started making careless mistakes, missing deadlines, showing up late. My manager called me in for a performance review. James, you have been with us for 3 years, and you have always been reliable, but lately your work has been slipping. Is everything all right? I wanted to tell him everything, to explain that my wife was having an emotional affair at minimum with his golden boy vice president, that my marriage was falling apart, that I could barely function, but I just nodded and promised to do better. I did not do better. 2 weeks later, my manager called me in again. This time, HR was there. They laid it out plainly. My performance had not improved. In fact, it had gotten worse. They showed me reports of complaints from other departments about delayed responses, unresolved technical issues, systems that stayed down too long. They were letting me go, effective immediately. I sat there numb as they went through the exit process. Security would escort me out. I had 2 hours to clear my desk. I could apply for unemployment. They wished me the best. The walk to my desk felt like a funeral march. People stared as I packed my belongings into a cardboard box. My hands were shaking so badly, I kept dropping things. And then I heard her laugh. Jennifer's laugh coming from the marketing wing. I looked up and saw her through the glass wall, sitting on the edge of Jacob's desk. Both of them looking at something on his computer screen, completely unaware that my life was falling apart 50 feet away. Or maybe she knew. Maybe she did not care. Dennis helped me carry my box to my car. He did not say anything, just squeezed my shoulder before heading back inside. I sat in the parking lot for an hour staring at that building at the windows of the third floor where I had spent 3 years of my life. Then I drove home, put the box by the door, and waited for Jennifer. She came home at 9 o'clock looking annoyed to see me there. "Why are you home so early?" she asked, not even noticing the box. "I got fired today." She froze, her bag dropping from her shoulder. "What do you mean you got fired?" Jennifer said, her voice rising with each word. "How do you get fired from fixing computers? It is the easiest job in the building." I explained about my performance reviews, the complaints, how I had been struggling. But even as I said it, I could hear how weak it sounded. She paced back and forth, her heels clicking angrily on the hardwood floor. "This is unbelievable. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? I work there, James. Everyone is going to know my husband got fired. What am I supposed to tell people?" Her concern was not for me, for us, for how we would manage financially. It was about her image, her reputation, how this made her look. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I am sorry," I said flatly. "I will find another job." "You better," she snapped. "Because I am not supporting an unemployed husband." The judgment in her voice. The disgust, it was like being hit over and over. She grabbed her phone and started texting furiously. I did not need to ask who she was texting. 10 minutes later, she announced she was going back to the office. "There is a crisis with the campaign. I need to be there." At 9:30 at night on the day your husband got fired, she gave me a look that could freeze fire. "Yes, James. Some of us still have jobs. Some of us still have responsibilities." After she left, I sat in the dark apartment for hours. Around midnight, I checked her location again. Jacob's apartment. I do not know what came over me, but I got in my car and drove there. It was a nice building in the expensive part of town, the kind of place with a doorman and valet parking. I parked across the street and stared up at the windows. On the 7th floor, I could see lights on in what I assumed was his unit. I watched shadows move past the windows. 2 shadows standing close together. I sat there until 3 o'clock in the morning, and Jennifer never came out. I drove home, packed a suitcase with clothes and my laptop and loaded it into my car. Then I went back inside and waited. Jennifer came home at 6 o'clock in the morning, clearly not expecting me to be awake. She jumped when she saw me sitting at the kitchen table. "Where were you?" "At the office?" I asked in a calm voice. "No, you weren't," I said. "You were in Jacob's flat. All night." Her face went through several expressions. Shock, anger, defiance before settling on cold indifference. So what if I was? We were working at 3 o'clock in the morning in his apartment for 9 hours. She slammed her purse on the counter. "You know what? I am done with this. I am done with your jealousy, your accusations, your complete inability to handle the fact that I have a successful career and you do not. Then let me make this easy for you," I said, standing up. "I am leaving." She blinked. "What?" "I am leaving. I do not know where yet, but I am not staying here watching you pretend you are not having an affair." Her face flushed red. "I am not having an affair. You actually think I would cheat with Jacob? He is my colleague, you paranoid." "Maybe not physically," I said, "but emotionally. You are in love with him, Jennifer. And you have been for months." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. For a moment, just a brief moment, I saw something like guilt flicker across her face. But it vanished quickly, replaced by anger. "If I am emotionally invested in Jacob," she said easily, "it is because he actually supports me. He believes in me. He does not make me feel guilty for being successful. You have never supported me. I have done nothing but support you. I gave up my own ambitions, my own plans to be there for you. I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything to make your life easier so you could focus on your career. And you thank me by falling in love with someone else. That is not support," she yelled. "That is you being lazy and hiding behind being a good husband. You never tried to build anything for yourself because it was easier to just coast and play house husband." The cruelty of her words left me speechless. This woman I had loved for 6 years, who I had married, who I had built a life with, genuinely believed I was worthless. "Fine," I said quietly. "You are right. I am useless. I am a failure. I am everything you think I am." I hope Jacob gives you everything you deserve. I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the door. Jennifer followed me. Where are you going to go? You do not have a job. You do not have money. You're going to come crawling back in a week. I stopped at the door and looked back at her. Maybe I will. Or maybe I will disappear and you will never see me again. Either way, you get what you want. You are free. Her expression shifted to something I could not read. James, wait. But I did not wait. I got in my car and drove. I drove until the city disappeared behind me, until I crossed state lines, until I had no idea where I was. Finally, I stopped at a rest area somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I sat in my car, shaking, the reality of what I had just done crashing over me. I had left. I had actually left my wife, my home, my entire life. I had $600 in my checking account, a suitcase of clothes, and absolutely no plan. My phone kept buzzing with calls and texts from Jennifer. At first, they were angry. You are being ridiculous.
Come home right now.
Then they turned manipulative. I did not mean what I said.
Let us talk about this.
Then desperate. James, please. Where are you? I am worried. But I knew her. She was not worried about me. She was worried about how my disappearance looked, about what people would say, about having to explain why her husband left. I turned off my phone and threw it in the trash. Then I drove to the nearest city, walked into a library, and started researching. I researched business ventures, investment strategies, online courses, anything and everything I could learn. If Jennifer thought I was useless, if she thought I had no ambition, I would prove her wrong. Not for her. Not anymore. But for me, I spent the first week living in my car, showering at truck stops, eating cheap fast food. I used the library computers during the day to apply for jobs, any jobs anywhere that was not home. I got hired at a warehouse 2 states over, loading trucks overnight. It was brutal work, but it paid cash under the table and nobody asked questions. I rented a tiny room in a boarding house, barely bigger than a closet, but it had a bed and internet. That was all I needed. 3 years passed like a fever dream. That first year, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. The warehouse at night, data entry from home during the day, and weekend shifts at a grocery store. I slept 4 hours if I was lucky. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I did not have a social life. I did not have hobbies. I had one singular focus, which was to become someone Jennifer could never call useless again. With my first real paycheck, I enrolled in online business courses. I studied during my breaks on the bus, lying in bed before passing out from exhaustion. Marketing, finance, business management, investment strategies. I devoured it all like a starving man. I used a fake name, created a new email, made sure there was no way Jennifer could find me even if she tried. By month 6, I had saved $3,000. I invested half in cryptocurrency, which everyone said was risky, but I had done my research. The rest I put into learning how to code properly. Not just basic IT work, but real software development. I taught myself Python, JavaScript, SQL. I built websites for small businesses, charging cheap rates to build my portfolio. By the end of year 1, my cryptocurrency investment had quadrupled. I cashed out half and invested it in stocks, carefully researched tech companies that I believed would grow. The other half, I left to continue growing. I quit the grocery store job and started freelancing full-time as a developer while still working the warehouse nights for stable income. Year 2 was when things accelerated. My freelance work got noticed by a startup looking for someone to build their entire platform. They could not afford to pay much upfront, but they offered equity. 5% of the company if I would work for reduced rates. I took the gamble. The startup was a logistics software company, something I understood from my warehouse work. I knew the pain points, the inefficiencies, what workers actually needed. I built them a system that revolutionized how they tracked inventory and shipments. Within 8 months, they got bought out by a major corporation for $30 million. My 5% suddenly became $1.5 million. I took that money and invested aggressively. I bought into 3 struggling companies that I believed had potential, small tech firms that were being mismanaged but had good bones. I joined their boards, used everything I had learned, turned them around, and sold 2 of them for significant profits. The The third one I kept and grew, installing myself as the CEO. It was a software company that specialized in corporate management systems. By year 3, we had contracts with 15 Fortune 500 companies. Our revenue hit $50 million annually. I had become wealthy. Not just comfortable, but genuinely wealthy. But money was not the goal. The goal was proving that I was not the useless failure Jennifer had made me believe I was. Then I heard through my network that Sterling Corporation was struggling. Their big rebranding campaign, the one Jennifer and Jacob had worked on, had been a disaster. They had overextended, made bad investments, and lost several major clients. The company was hemorrhaging money and looking for a buyer. I made an offer through a shell corporation, one that could not be traced back to me. I offered $30 million for complete acquisition, which was generous given their financial state. They accepted within a week. The day I walked into Sterling Corporation as the new owner, wearing a suit that cost more than my old car, I felt like a different person. I was a different person. My hair was styled professionally. I had put on muscle from finally being able to afford a gym membership and proper food. I carried myself with the confidence of someone who had built an empire from nothing. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock in the morning. I arrived at 9 o'clock, walking through the lobby where I used to badge in as a low-level IT worker. The security guard did not recognize me. Why would he? That James was gone. I took the elevator to the executive floor somewhere I had never been allowed before. The conference room was massive, all glass walls and expensive furniture. Slowly, the department heads filed in. I watched them through the glass as I stood in the hallway, waiting for my entrance. Then I saw her. Jennifer walked in wearing a sharp business suit, her hair pulled back, looking every bit the successful executive she had always wanted to be. She had made it to director of marketing. I had done my research. Behind her like a shadow was Jacob.